here with Brad's Gaming, and we're gonna go ahead and give a new review of after week one of the Frozen Throne, some of our favorite cards. With all the gameplay that we've had over the last, I know, 5 or 6 days of the Frozen Throne being out. Uh, so, so Brad, do you want to go ahead and get started with number five on your list?
Yeah, sure. So, number five is obviously the Lich King, which everybody I feel like is going to have in their top five. So, he's just an awesome card. Played versatility in every deck, being the fact that he's a neutral legendary. Got all the Death Knight cards. You can get Frostmourne, resurrect all of the minions. It's just a lot of fun. Even though I don't think he's as powerful as we all thought he was, it still is a great time to play the card and just see what happens. The madness that comes from the Lich King himself.
Yeah, I was lucky enough that in my first 10 packs, I got this on pack number five, and I was so stoked. I'm like, yeah, this is one of the ones I wanted, and yeah, I've seen it in every deck. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was not so lucky, but I ended up crafting golden, so
Right,
I guess that works out.
you got the better one in the long run.
Yeah,
So my number five, I just went with Righteous Protector, which looks so small and pequeño compared to the Lich King, but it's a good flexible card. I always liked Pally Aggro. Love Divine Shields. It really makes of course, I'm drawing a blank on the weapon, but the three-mana weapon, Ralliant Blade, works well with
yeah,
Ralliant Blade, just with lots of bubble minions, can swarm. It also works with just stopping aggro as well. So it works in aggro and stops aggro. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's actually probably the most powerful card in the set. Actually, not even just my like in favorites wise, but most powerful too.
yeah,
Just simple.
it looked really good in your deck that you just featured yesterday. So which I encourage everybody to check out. A really fun aggro pally deck.
Yeah, for sure.
So number four for you.
So number four is going to be Bone Drake, another neutral minion. So the reason this card is just so phenomenal is you can actually make dragon decks out of like just this guy by himself. I actually have a warrior dragon deck that I want to make a video on that's quite powerful. And as we know in standard, there's not like really warrior based dragons anymore. Like they don't have the 2 mana where it gains charge and becomes a 3/3. Don't remember the name of it, but back in the day it was very aggressive. But this is a more control based card.
Mhm.
Obviously beautiful card, and Priest already was amazing with their dragon decks just from Draconoid Operative, but this just makes it tenfold better. Plus, also, if you think about it, there are only like three dragons that aren't really that powerful to pull from it, and Fairy Dragon's one of them. The other one would be like the 6 mana 2/8 that gains double attack every turn.
Oh yeah,
Scaled Nightmare or
yeah,
something like
Skull
that, I
Nightmare.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, you're really getting like Ysera, Nixia, Deathwing Dragon Lord. I mean, it's really powerful cards that you can generate from this guy.
Yeah, I love Dragon Warrior, and I think you're referring to Alex Strauss's champion earlier.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Couldn't
card
think
is
of the name.
yeah, that card is awesome. Yeah, it's so hard to come up with all these names. It's pretty amazing. Uh, as much as us players as we play, and how many cards there's over 1,000. Especially if
Yeah,
you played to, um, since beta like I have.
yep,
It's yeah.
I have.
Yeah. So number four for me is gonna be Skulking Geist. I really haven't seen it a lot on the ladder, surprisingly. I know everybody was like, "Oh yes, finally Jay Druid is dead," but I've been playing a lot of Priest. Spoiler alert. So I've been playing a lot of Priest, and I teched this into my deck, and it's really helped me in this control matchups against Jay Druid. It's just so fun. I had one just yesterday where I was counting the cards, and he had one card in his hand, and he just played a big taunt minion, and then he lost like right after I played this. He had no cards in his hand, so he had the armor up spell, Earthen Scales, and then he destroyed about three or four other cards in his deck, and I just laughed and laughed, and then he conceded promptly after.
Yeah, Skulking Geist is pretty awesome. The only thing I have a problem with is sometimes I feel like it's not enough actually against these Jade Druids. They're just so powerful, but because they're still able to get like a 10/10 Jade even without their Jade idols, but it does help in the fatigue matchup.
Yeah,
So, which
definitely.
Priest is definitely powerful enough to make it into that late game.
Yeah, you got it. I think you have to have a really controlling deck before this really you see the impact from it. I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So number three for you.
All right, my number three is a weird one, Animated Berserker. The 1/3 warrior card that deals one damage to another minion that you play. So Animated Berserker, I just like it for all the combo potential, especially if you think of Wild. You can bring back the old Patron
Oh
Warrior,
man,
which
yeah.
such a fun deck. Um, I actually wish they almost made Warsong Commander like they brought him back from the old days, but just put him in Wild only because right now he's essentially a useless card.
Right.
But anyways, so Anime Berserker has a lot of versatility actually, and I think it also works amazing with Rotface, which is a legendary card that's not powerful but is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And even Gurubashi Berserker, the classic card that nobody ever sees played, that I think is one of the most underrated cards because of how powerful it is, because it's so hard to kill. So I definitely I like the card. I think there's enough versatility in it, and if you're like a free to play player, the Disneyland Warrior, which this can shine in, does wonderful with.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this would be on the ladder even more, just because when's the last time a one mana 1/3 has been bad? I mean, usually
Exactly.
you have Tunnel Trog, you have the Mage one, yeah, Mana Worm. I mean, the Priest. Yeah, I mean, every good class has a 1/3, and it usually shines.
The problem is with Warrior is I mean Pirate Warrior is just so good. So it makes it so playing anything
Yeah,
else seems not worth it.
yeah. Unfortunately, it
But
doesn't fit. Yeah, very well with that. Number three for me is Shadowblade, mainly because I love playing Rogue, and it makes sense, war wise for them not to give rogues so much healing, but maybe immunity is actually really probably better if you think about it. So, first of all, I mean, I think this saves you about 6 to 10 damage, which is awesome. But why heal it when you can just never lose that damage in the first place, never lose that health? So that's why I really like this. I think it stays true to Rogue War, and it's very helpful. And it's basically a Fiery War Axe that you save 6 to 10 damage on.
yeah, I've been messing around with the Rogue list recently and trying to fit this card in there. And I actually have a free to play account on like the Europe and Asian servers. And on my Asian server, I had the Rogue quest, so I was building something and found actually this card to be useful along with actually surprisingly Leeching Poison, not the worst card I've ever played in my life.
Yeah,
As I thought that was probably going to be one of the worst cards in the entire set, but I was like, okay, all right, I see the purpose for it.
yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'm always looking for Rogue lists here. I feel like Rogue's struggling a little bit so far, but I think hopefully it can make a comeback and be viable, other than just the typical Miracle Rogue.
All right, yeah. So my number two, just switched it out, and I'm because I think my number two that was is my number one favorite card actually, but number two is going to be Abominable Bowman. So the reason Bowman is just so fun is because you have to build your deck so uniquely, and everybody's thinking about how, oh, you got to have Savannah Highmane because it's the most powerful beast in the game. But the problem is there's a 66% chance that you're going to pull a 2/2 beast rather than the 6/5. But obviously, if you get that 33% chance, you're going to be doing amazing. So rather than that, you just build a weird deck that does horribly, but is a lot of fun and a huge swing game. And you get something like the weird theory craft that I made up of, uh, the Swamp King Dread into Bowman. But yeah, the card's just a lot of fun. I mean, it is not viable by any means, but it is definitely unique in trying to push that control hunter, which is never going to work because their hero power is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I played a couple fun games with you on that first night, and yeah, it still did a pretty good amount of work. When
Yeah,
you may say it's not viable, but maybe just not yet because of the pieces around Hunter. But this was a pretty scary card every time it came down, and I think I can't remember which deck I was playing with, but I struggled with it. And it does look like a fun card. I haven't had really much time to play Hunter. I've been too hooked on Priest, Rogue,
yep.
and Paladin.
Yeah, I refined that deck a bit now, so it's even better, actually, in quotes, I guess you could say. But It is a lot of fun. I think it needs just a few more pieces to the puzzle
Hmm.
to control in the early game in order to make it actually a powerful deck. Because if they're even somewhat aggressive, you're going to just lose.
Yeah. Number two on the list for me is Serenite Chain Gang. Such a unassuming card. You're just like, oh, 4 mana, 2/3 with another 2/3. If you think about it, I mean, it's better than a Chillwind Yeti. You get 4/6 in stats. You get it across two bodies. Oh, and by the way, it has tons of synergy with the Shaman evolve, whether it be the Hero Power or the Battle Cry, hand buffing, and even if somebody were say to sap it or put it back in your hand, hey, guess what? Both of these had that same Battle Cry. So if they just throw one back, boom, you bring out another 2/3 2/3. So it just I like this card, and I don't even feel that angry when I go against because I'm like, dude, you made the right call. That's a good card.
Yeah, I actually think it was when I was analyzing the first cards, I was like, is this actually going to be one of like the top 10 cards in the set? Like, I think it's kind of underrated. I don't think people understand how powerful it is from
Yeah.
just a hand buff perspective, but I actually like it a lot also in like a warrior that uses that 2 mana, give +3/+3 to a taunt minion in your
Oh,
hand.
bolster.
Uh, it's not called
Oh,
bolster, but it's like stolen goods, I believe.
oh yeah, 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 yep.
Yeah. So that I think is a pretty powerful card, and if you built a warrior, which this wouldn't be powerful enough because
Hmm.
you would only use this as your taunt, because you really wouldn't want anything else to get that effect because two threes isn't amazing, even though it still is, because it's basically like that. Uh, Spirit Wolves, I think it's called for the shaman,
Oh yeah, yeah,
the 3 mana overload
yep,
too. It's essentially that for which isn't a terrible card, but I think it's just so much better if you're able to even just get +1/+1 on it with a buff.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. So yeah, even with this, we don't necessarily. It's still early in the meta. We don't necessarily recommend craft anything, but this is a blue. I feel like this. If you're a free to play player, this is probably a pretty safe craft. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the other one I would say too is almost indefinitely is Bone Drake, the guy I always talk about in my number four.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think these two are pretty safe to craft as they're pretty inexpensive, only 100 dust. So if you got
Yeah.
that spare, not a bad thing.
Yep. Value on top of value. So number one for you.
Yeah, number one is probably going to be the biggest surprise. Is everybody made fun of this card? It's actually going to be Webweave, the 5 mana summon 2/1/2 spiders for Druid. Now, the reason I like this card is there's just something so fun to play a terrible card that everybody knows is terrible, and then you drop a dirty rat and you kill some large minion like an Archmage into Titus or something like a huge combo piece, even though it's not going to happen all the time, but even still getting some value like that, it's actually harder to deal with these 1/2 spiders than I think most people thought, because if you don't have a board clear, then there's really nothing else you could do. You can maybe
Yeah.
just pink one down, or you're gonna have to trade your minions into it. But usually you're gonna hide these behind some taunt minion. You play like a taunt druid, and then you drop this down. Then the next turn you play your dirty rat. So that's probably one of my favorite combos that I found of the set, even though it's kind of similar to the Abominable Bowman. Not the best, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about cards that we love, and I mean, I've seen this played actually on the ladder a little bit, as much heat as it took, and supposedly
Yeah.
when hearing from Mike Dene, the one of the creators with Hearthstone and one of the card
Yep.
creators, he said that when it was 4 mana, this was just overpowered card, so they added one more mana, and so maybe it's just taking a little bit more time for people to kind of figure out the best way to use this. Not that Druid needs any other tools at this point, though.
No, I mean everybody's going to be playing J Druid, but it also could be potentially a buff because if you play it with Medivh, you get your
Oh,
5 drop.
nice.
And there,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good idea. I like that.
that's that's
Druid Medivh. You did run that
that.
against me, I think.
Yep, that was the first deck I built of the expansion, and I haven't changed one card in the list.
All right, for number one for me in the final card. Hey, what do you know? There's a bunch of cards named Shadow on here. Uh, the Shadow Reaper Annuin. Now, of course, the only DK on the list, but I've just absolutely love this card. I've never played much Priest. I've never really played a lot of control matchups, but once I got this was one of the probably got this like my third or fourth legendary I got, and this was one I really wanted. But yeah, it's so much fun. I've been playing control games. I've been playing like 15, 20-minute games and winning most of the time. Now, once I get up to rank 5 to rank 1 and I start playing really long games and I start losing, then I'm going to start questioning my decisions in life. But for right now, I mean, I've been streaking. I've been winning about 63, 65%, between rank 10 and rank 8 with this. So getting this card, I've always wanted to play Quest Priest, and I didn't have it, so I did craft that, which was probably a mistake. I got a little over ambitious, but Hearthstone's about
No.
fun, so you know.
The thing with Quest Priest though is that it's just going to get better over time
You're right,
because the
yeah,
more cards that are printed, the better it gets.
yeah. That's my hope too, and I agree with that. I think it should get to where it's viable at some point. And then Raza, I crafted Raza for this, and that was definitely a good investment. Just to be able to, as they're calling machine gun Raza, being able to shoot fireballs after fireballs after or shadow balls or void form balls, whatever you want to call them, for free is just absolutely sick. And there was one game where I had a warlock to, I think he had. Now this was an aggro list, so um, that I actually still had Shadow Reaper in. So he's flexible. He can be in an aggro and your standard control list with Priest. But I think I had a Warlock to 18 health and had this. Didn't even have Raz at this point and played the hero power and then the two mind blasts and just crushed his spirits. It was at least 18 health. It might have even been 21 health that I had him down, comboed him down. It was so sick. I'm just like, Void Form Ball, Mind Blast,
Yep.
Void Form Ball, Mind Blast, cheap spell, Mind Blast, cheap, just keep going out. And it was just like, I couldn't believe I produced that much damage. So, loving this card, making me love Priest, making Priest great again. And I'm trying to give the phrase, instead of, you know, Raza the Chained, it's Shadow Reaper Unchained, Shadow Reaper Anduin Unchained. I think that's what it needs to be happening
Mhm.
because he is out of control.
Yeah, I actually think the card's a bit busted.
Yeah.
It seems almost like I don't know. When you read it, it doesn't seem it's like doing dealing 2 damage, but when you mix it with the Raza effect, it's like almost broken.
Yeah,
So
that's probably why I
yeah,
like it because I've been on the good side of that more, and it's been so good, and I haven't been on the losing end of it as nearly as much. So I think that's why I
yeah.
love it so much. You're probably very
I
right on that.
I can't believe more people aren't playing. To be honest, like
Yeah,
I think it's one of the most powerful decks out there right now,
yeah,
and but it's like unknown powerful deck. So
yeah.
for sure, yeah.
I agree. Well, that's our list. Any final thoughts you want to share, Brad? Or
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a video game. Everybody should remember that. So
yeah,
the cards might not be the best, but remember that it's all about fun. So even though they're not like, the top most viable deck, it doesn't matter. Just, have fun. That's what I try to push for a lot of things. Why I don't play the meta decks. I usually try to make some weird craft that I make up myself because half the fun I think is deck building,
hmm
and that's usually what I spend most of my time doing.
yeah. Great closing thoughts there. Appreciate that. Well, this has
Mm,
been our first collaboration video. Please check out Brad's Gaming. Search Brad's Gaming Hearthstone on YouTube. You can also check me out on YouTube, Mighty Rye. Search Mighty Rye Hearthstone on YouTube. Also, feel free to subscribe to me on Twitch or follow me on Twitch. I'm at slash Mighty Rye. So, hope to bring you some more videos in the future. Please leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks, guys.